Have you ever traveled overseas, perhaps to meet your family, for a job opportunity, or for exploring new areas of the world? If you have, you have traveled on a plane. But have you ever questioned the safety of planes? This video will explain how pilots communicate with other pilots and air traffic management teams to make sure that the planes are as safe as they possibly can be. Modern day planes are incredibly safe, with approximately 1 in 816,545,929 chance of being involved in a plane crash. This means that the percentage of death is approximately 0.00000012246%. This number is so low that it's basically 0%. But how did we get this number? Let's dive deeper into what goes on in the cockpit. In the cockpit, the Air Traffic Control, ATC, communicates regularly with the pilot to ensure safety. When the pilots are talking with the ATC, they use radio communication to provide information about the position, altitude, where it's heading, and if it's always en route. Pilots use very high frequency or high frequency radio waves to communicate with the ATC. Keep this in mind for later in the video. The way this works is by the pilots talking into a microphone, which picks up the sound wave and then converts it into electrical signals. Then this goes to the aircraft's audio panel, meaning that it can be processed and targeted to different destinations. When the signal is being transmitted, it gets converted to radio waves and then travels in the air and reaches the ATC. At the same time, a signal called a side tone signal gets fed back into the pilot's headset, allowing them to hear what they have transmitted. But this side tone signal is only a small portion of the original transmitted audio, but is more than enough to understand what the pilot has sent. The audio signals are also stored in a thing called a cockpit voice recorder, also known as a black box, but ironically not black. And they record everything that the pilot says and keeps it saved. Now you may be wondering, why do they need to use radio waves? This is a valid question. I mentioned before that the pilots use very high frequency, VHF, or high frequency, HF, radio waves to transmit electrical signals. The reason why they are so important is because of how they reflect off the ionosphere. Firstly, the ionosphere is in the Earth's upper atmosphere and contains charged particles. When the radio waves are being transmitted, it travels in a straight line from the plane and rises and reaches the ionosphere. When it reaches the ionosphere, it gets either reflected or refracted back towards the surface of the Earth, and then hits the ATC. The reason why the waves hit the ionosphere is because it is filled with electrons that attract the waves and then gets reflected, which cannot be avoided as the plane is so high in the sky. This entire process happens over 50 times in an average flight and can increase on longer flights. I do hope I've given you a new insights into what happens in the cockpit when a pilot is communicating and how safe planes really are. So next time you travel overseas, remember the cool science behind radio waves in action.